I don't know. It is April 6th, 4 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'll do a roll call planning commission members. Joey Edwards,
Here.
Steve Stevens.
He's no longer on the committee.
Okay. Jason Marufa
Here.
and David Rich.
Here.
Heather Lind here, and Ryan Hill is also absent. Commissioner Lee is here.
Here.
Commissioner Tharp, I think said she was gonna try to join a little bit late, via Zoom, and Commissioner Bullock is not present. Okay, changes or additions to the agenda? Minutes from March 23rd.
I move to approve the March 23rd minutes.
Do I have a second? Thank you.
Edwards,
All in
second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Updates from staff.
So one thing that we wanted to bring up this evening is, if we could get an idea from the four of you, and we can reach out to Ryan as well, and ask, we'd like to present, we've been working on the future land use map, that will accompany the comp plan. And we've got some deadlines that we're trying to make on the project, and so we were wondering what you all thought of meeting, our second meeting. Oh, do we have something on the 27th? Do we have an application on the 27th? We do. We were thinking about moving the 27th to the April 20th to accommodate just being able to roll out the future land use map and have a discussion on it. But I don't think we thought about that when we were talking about moving the 27th to the 20th, but we do have a notice application on the 27th. So this would actually be adding in an additional Monday. And before you all kind of think about that a little bit, I just wanted to make sure that we've all got it on our calendars that April 28th is the public engagement on the comp plan at the high school on the 28th.
I should just get a text from Commissioner Bullock, we'll be here in a couple minutes.
Oh, great, thank you for
Yeah.
that, thanks. So we've got some, some different times that we're asking for a little extra time than normal. If we were to add in a meeting on the 20th to look at the future land use map, and we do have to keep the 27th because we have a noticed application, we have a site plan review for backcountry structure on the 27th.
We wouldn't need the board though, on the
We would-
27th,
we would
and
not
it's
need
gonna
the
be it's a backcountry structure, so it's not a complicated.
It should be a relatively short
We
application.
can even do it online, could consider that.
We could consider doing that virtually if that would be easier for everyone. We could, if that would help kind of ease the asking for some additional time from everyone. So those are what we'd like to just chat with you about. The 28th is from, I believe it's 6 to 7:30 is our time. And then adding in the 20th of this month to look at the future land use map and present that.
Do you have a paper copy of the map? Or is it just electronic?
We'll be presenting it electronic, that's what we'll be
Okay.
on that night. If we've got some iterations that we've been working on that are paper, anybody's welcome to stop by the office and take a look at. But what we were planning on was having that digital so we can really get into, look at different areas of focus in, but we will have it in a digital format on the 20th.
I can do both dates.
Yeah, 20th is open for me.
Again, this one.
I will not be present on the 20th,
On the 20th,
somewhere between here and south,
okay.
in Marie on the vehicle.
Would you be in on the 28th? Will you be able to
Yeah.
make that? Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we could even arrange a time with anyone that would like to sit down and look at the map with us after the 20th? Like if you're not here, I don't know if we could.
Yeah, I'll probably be back on the 22nd and on, I'll be open for anything.
Awesome, we could carve out some time
Okay.
to sit down and just kind of go through the map and talk about some changes. I think it's fair to share that we really discovered through this work when we applied use types spatially that we had a pretty good foundation at our existing comp plan. And so we were really gonna focus just on the changes that we feel like have occurred in the last 10 years, which is not insignificant, right? But that'll be the basis of that. So Jason, did you say that works for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
Great. We'll follow up then with Matt, Elsa, and Ryan, and just make sure.
Same time, 4 to 6?
4 o'clock, 4 to 6, yeah, on the 20th. So thank you so much for that. And then just would ask if there's any questions about the event on the 28th. That's gonna be less of a presentation style. We'll have stations where the public can just kind of come and go, rotate in and out as they would like. And we'll have different members of the stakeholder groups, project management team, just at the different stations to help people kind of navigate and answer questions. So that'll be the mode of presentation that night. That's all the schedule changes that we have for you. And we could definitely, if a preferred method of convening would be Zoom on the 27th, just to kind of honor everybody's time. We could definitely put that out and see if that sounds like a better option.
Okay.
Sounds great. I think that's the, let me think, we've already shared that Rachel will be joining us in May as our new planner. And I think that's about all that we have update was, unless you can think of anything else for us for that department.
Long-term work is happening.
That's great. You might want to share out on that just a little bit.
Yeah, so what I'm focused on right now is like our neighbors, you know, different jurisdictions in the mountain area of the state, and I'm learning we are a little bit of a unicorn. So I'm like, wow, you don't have the same demand we do. I sort of thought it might be everywhere, but it isn't everywhere. It looks different, and some places are just really, they just depend on the federal lands to absorb all of the camping. That doesn't happen. That isn't happening. So anyway, but we're learning some good things and trying to engage with our emergency response partners. There's some opportunities coming up here shortly of gatherings to really kind of come together and get some good input all at once. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we're gonna give it right back to you for our round 3
Okay.
community project update.
Yeah.
All right. And go to the next slide. So here we are, phew, round 3.
Can you guys on Zoom, can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's make sure.
Yep, all good.
Thank you.
So here we are in the biggest lift of this review. I think we sent out roughly 75 pages of documents. And just wanted to mention that this final review reflects extensive public input, stakeholder engagement, project management, team oversight, which has been city and county planning departments, community builders, members of the advisory board, and members of our community county manager's office has been part of the project management team. And then certainly we've had those check-in points with the advisory boards and the elected officials. And this really has been a year and a half of a lot of work that has gone into, what we're presenting to you now. And we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So what we're gonna do tonight is really pretty much a high level, maybe moderate level review of what we've given to you and we're hoping you're becoming pretty familiar with. We're gonna talk about big moves, we're gonna talk about the different topical areas. I'm gonna turn it over to Melissa here in a little bit and let her talk about that. And then what we're hoping is that you can kind of continue to look at the information that we've provided, and if you have any feedback, you can provide that by noon on Thursday. We're trying to hit an April 10th deadline to just kind of take that in. And what I'd be really encouraging and asking for tonight, or the planning department's really asking for, is what are your clarifying questions? And can you help us identify any inconsistencies? As we go through, we're gonna be looking specifically in all of the different topical areas. We're gonna be looking at the goals and strategies. And so we wanna know if you see any inconsistencies in that information. And then the third thing that we're really hoping is, are there areas where the language is unclear, maybe to a member of the public or as decision makers? So that's really kind of the focus that we wanted to put on the review tonight. So we go ahead and go to the next slide, Shelby. And talk about big moves. And we really felt, as we were looking at this together, Melissa and I, we thought we could sum this up with really coordinating the direction, the alignment, and the commitment on these different items. And these are really designed to be strategies that across so many of the community's priorities, they benefit really from that coordinated action, and they have the ability to to show the kind of the broadest progress with the community goals. And they take time and coordination, but they have the ability to produce the kind of visible results that really increase public trust and build public trust in local government. So they're really significant, and they're really designed to build on the work that's already underway. So I think you'll recall when we had that joint meeting and we kind of, the first time we talked about big moves, you know, it was quick to see that so many of what we were talking about, we were already, you know, making progress on. We already had commitments from both the Board of County Commissioners and City Council on so much of this work. So number one is just really building and focusing on ways that we just have both governments at the table and creating joint planning with the ability to share resources. So that's number one. Number two is, again, planning to fix it together. This gives the ability for the governments to take those limited resources and work together to make those dollars spread further. Number three is really looking at our rules concerning development so that we can really gauge the where, what, how, and when development happens in our community. Number four is just, again, building on all of the amazing housing work that's already been done in our community. So how do we continue that work and strengthen it? One of those key areas is really building up the housing authority, and how do we support that work and continuing the projects that are underway already. And then number five is just really how do we connect, train, and grow our local businesses, knowing that they have the ability to create local jobs for our local workforce. And also, how do we create a resilient, diversified economy? So I think those are just kind of the overview of big moves, and now I'm happy to switch it over and Melissa will kind of talk more about the topical areas.
Great, any comments about that so far?
Any comments? This is the time.
You know, I keep seeing fund it, fix it, and plan it together. It pops up. It's kind of like a tag, line thing. Why is it in that order?
Oh,
So I feel like, yeah, funding comes first, but we're always like, we gotta plan something out. And then we determine how much funding we'll need.
right?
And then, so it's always like plan it, then fund it, then fix it.
Yeah.
It just kind of jumps out at me. I mean, it's probably nothing, but it's just one of those little things that I'm like,
So it should go in sequential order?
yeah.
Good point.
Thanks for that.
Huh?
Anything else? Welcome.
Sorry, I'm late.
No worries.
Yeah, glad to have
We
you.
just started this, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of going into the meat of it right now, which is our strategies, goals and strategies. So we do have these 6 categories. We're gonna kind of keep a little clip to this tonight so that we don't spend more than 15 minutes on one of these, and I think we can get through all of them, which will be a good thing. So let's go forward. What Ann and I did is look at each category and picked out 1 or 2 goals, not all of them, so that we kind of, you at least have touched a little more deeply on a few of these, and start to get familiar with them. So the first goal under this category has to do with grow where we're invested, and that new development is in areas where we have the infrastructure. So this really kind of supports infill in a lot of ways. It supports efficiency in terms of how we grow. So this is goal number 1, and we can go to the next slide, which are 2 strategies under that goal that really support how do we achieve that goal. And so, encouraging infill and redevelopment that's already in already served areas. So again, really efficient type of growth, good use of public money and public infrastructure. So that's kind of strategy number 1, kind of in more detail. And then the second strategy is really fiscally responsible growth by aligning development decisions along with long-term costs and availability. So different ways of saying similar things to get to that end goal. So we were kind of playing with different questions, so you guys can help us with this, but essentially we want to see from your decision-making seats and those hats that you carry, do these make sense? Is there anything unclear about them? Or, we're not really editing these at this point, but is there something that stands out to you? Do you feel like these strategies support the goal that we're talking about?
I'm sure it's been discussed, and I think I've even been in the room when the question's been asked before, but with a sanitation system that's already in rough shape and sort of what I get the impression of is that it's at its peak capacity almost right now. Did it still make more sense to really just encourage building within the existing parameters of that type of infrastructure? Like has that been discussed much, like it seems like our sanitation system
Like
is
versus getting septic systems?
versus that or adding new fresh lines that would get to the treatment plant. I feel like it's come up before, but I'm drawing a blank on like what some of the reasoning was with that. I understand like building costs, running electrical lines, but with that sanitation component, I wonder if it is really advantageous to only encourage development within existing sanitation lines where they might be in really bad shape and at capacity and I'm just, like I said, I feel like we've gone over this and I apologize because I'm pretty sure we have, but
It's all right.
I'm drawing a blank on why we don't.
Yeah, no, I think that's its own, that's the problem, like the conundrums with some of what we have going on in this community. I completely agree because I think in my opinion, I think we have to focus our new development to be attached to that kind of infrastructure, but on the side, we also need to be encouraging Leadville Sanitation to fix and update and,
Yeah. And I guess if they've got more users connected, that's more revenue and more.
there's lots of new revenue going over there right now, so it seems like.
There's a lot of work to do too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the issue, and I know you guys online too, are raising your hand, but real quick, just like, I think though that septic systems are the alternative to attaching to Leadville sanitation, and those are not gonna be nearly as desirable of an option for people to start encouraging more dense development with the use of septic systems. So I think that's why this goal has to probably be this, but there maybe needs to be another infrastructure goal down the road that's like, hey, how do we support these two infrastructure entity, and actually all of them, that kind of hold us captive because they also don't have money to do their upgrades and things.
Yeah.
But Joey, I think Jason, you had your hand up first, and then Joey.
Yeah, mine's just related to strategy 2. The only thing that concerns me is when we say fiscally responsible. I just wish that there was some understood qualifiers on what it means to be responsible, because one person's definition of responsible versus another could be widely different. And so I know we're not editing anything, but it would just be nice if that was noted somehow, like what do we mean when we say fiscally responsible, and whose definition is that? Is that collectively something we've agreed upon? Or not? It's just a comment, that's all.
Yeah, and I wonder if you just, like, that sentence just gets edited slightly so that it's kind of defining itself in the way of like, the way you're deciding it is that it's aligned with the long-term costs and the availability of infrastructure and services. You know, like it's worded in a way that that is the definition of fiscally responsible.
May I add just a little bit of context to this strategy too? So in your actual document, there is a little bit more on this of no mechanism currently ties development approvals to long-term service costs. The city and county can close that gap by tying public infrastructure investments to the future land use map, requiring cost benefit analysis for major proposals and coordinating with Parkville Water and Leadville Sand on supply and infrastructure capacity. And so development agreements in the county, as well as annexations policies in the city, are ways that we can ensure new growth pays its fair share of infrastructure costs. So this is also tied to ways that we ensure the development's paying its way. So just wanted to add a little context to the strategy, that it's really also in part designed to really speak to how are we making sure that new growth pays its way, and we look at that long-term cost analysis. So there's another way in which that we would be actually putting that strategy into action. So it might be just a little.
No, that's great.
Joey still has his hand.
Joey, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to respond to Andy's comment earlier about sanitation. You're right, sanitation is tapped out in most areas of Leadville, but it's much easier to increase capacity than it is to install new capacity. The engineering has already been done and they know what the restraints are. So as we are moving forward and planning for development, if sanitation can increase their services where they're already provided, it's a much more efficient situation. That was my point.
Great, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts?
In the infrastructure section, there's a good write-up on the capacity of sand and water, which helps give context to these big moves.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, of course, I just pulled out, these are bullet points, but there's a lot of context, I think, that we're talking about that goes into it.
Does the existing comp plan address or prioritize development similar to this then?
Infill is always encouraged in the previous plan,
Okay.
and locating that on, within district. Yeah, it was the priority of the last.
Just what came to my mind is some of the properties we're talking about are in district, but not, there aren't lines there yet. So there will be new infrastructure at the same time, there's new growth in some locations. All right, well, maybe that's enough for that one. Let's go to the second one. Second goal is goal 3, protect our natural resources, open space landscape. Guiding growth away from sensitive areas. So the strategies that go with this one, if we would. 2 of them, and this really relates to our rural areas of the county in terms of there being really clear expectations about how we impact the landscape and the limits that we have on services, as well as guiding growth away from these highly sensitive areas, whether that's plants or animals. So that's the focus of this particular goal.
I would just mention too that the first strategy really is reflective of the work that we're doing right now in the moratorium. Actually, both of those strategies really kind of speak to the moratorium work that we're working on right now with different commercial lodging and event uses. So, this is aligning with that already and continue to do work on these areas. Backcountry was a clear result of a planning effort that was designed to think of this as well. Just to give, again, a little bit of context.
Thoughts or ideas about this one?
How are you gonna guide growth? Are they talking about changing zoning laws? I mean, someone that's,
So
how are you gonna accomplish that, guiding growth?
So I think one of those things is making sure that we have clear standards, we have good mapping, we have good identification of these high-risk areas so that we're doing site-specific review. We can avoid those kind of things, create building envelopes that are absent these kind of critical habitats or unsafe conditions and avoiding hazards. So it's just making sure, like one of the things I can think is in policy work, so that when we're looking at sites, we're ensuring that the proper review's been done to make sure that we're considering things like migratory pathways or endangered species, or that we've got different impacts. And so just guiding growth the way we'd be making informed decisions on development applications that would avoid these kind of so we have a development application in front of you, just a really super question, Matt, and a great example of when you have a decision in front of you for development and these may be relative to that site, this is a way that helps make your decisions and informs those decisions so that we're creating entitlements on the land that are consistent with these. It's a really great way to bring that forward. Thank
What
you.
are we using as a guide for high risk? And, when we're talking about things like endangered species, that I would imagine there's already protections in place at the state and federal levels. And are we talking about just backing that up or, within our comp plan and just kind of enshrining what has already been stated? Or is that gonna be fluid and change as the definitions change at state and federal level? What I don't wanna do is add, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I don't wanna add barriers to growth that could sort of shoot ourselves in the foot when we also have the same urgency with being able to figure out how to make growth affordable. And I don't wanna see two things within the comp plan that sort of make it really hard for us to navigate one goal.
Right. This is, these are really designed at more preservation of sensitive lands. I mean, things that are best practice methods, I would say, unless when you would probably find yourself in those conflict moments. And these are site specific, and so yes, there are certainly protected species that have been identified, but we still have the oversight of what, you have the oversight and decision making on entitling lands specific to different uses and development. So we want to take that information and have that inform our local decisions so that we're ensuring that we're aligning with those. So, this is really designed to emphasize the need for these protections or for resources that can't be reestablished and find, trade-offs. So a site may have trade-offs, a site may, and this is getting a little, going off in a little bit of a different direction, but there's tools that are discussed in the comp plan, like transfer of development rights. So if we find a parcel, so if we're worried about encouraging growth, but we want to encourage it in a way that is consistent with best planning principles and protections for areas that need to be preserved, there are other tools that we talk about, like transfer of development rights. So you're not losing the economic benefit, but maybe it can be transferred to another area by increased densities, or clustering development. So there are different tools that we have as planners and kind of working with when we find a site that is encumbered with kind of a variety of different things. But generally, this is talking about making sure that that we're sensitive to those, and then finding ways to navigate that in a way that is a better kind of win-win for the community. So all of those certainly are important, but I think this kind of helps navigate that.
Yeah, I don't think we're talking about lands that are where we're gonna be building affordable housing.
Okay.
Or infill, these are our infill.
Yeah.
There was the section, or at least in the thing, there was the goal 2, which we don't have on the slideshow, but it's for the, that I feel like is that, and I think that's where maybe, like goal 2 was protect and build on what makes Leadville Lake County, blah, blah, blah. Our historic buildings and places and the look and feel of our streets, and then those strategies are kind of going into what I think you're speaking to. Versus these ones are more that like protecting environmentally sensitive things. But there are some things in the strategies for goal 2 that I think could relate to these.
Yeah, and I think like Melissa's talking about, we are talking broadly.
Yeah.
We're talking about everything from, protecting the Arkansas River Valley, areas like that, our rural remote areas, our backcountry. This is more where we're talking about this expectation than where we're trying to drive development for housing solutions or good commercial or industrial uses. So this is really more designed in those other areas that we need to consider land stewardship.
Okay. And another.
No, this is what we're here.
These are great.
It's land use and developments. We're talking about the uses, and not just, are we gonna be building stuff here? So some of the things that are underserved in this community, if we want to expand, go in a partnership with BLM and expand some OHV trails, so we can get people out of town, out on dirt, and not on the east side. Is there a chance that they would look at our comp plan and be like, well, this is totally not in line with your comp plan because of strategy L 3.2 that says this, and is that something you think that would?
I feel like the definitions in here are growth and development. And
Okay.
that speaks more along the lines of,
Like commercial land use?
well,
like-
habitating not so much like use.
Okay,
Because our further ones that talk about recreation, that's like, how do we preserve some of these lands so that we can do things like that, but how them being overdeveloped.
Right,
You
okay,
know, so we'll have those other pieces of the comp
that
plan
will
that
back it
help
up and
back that
offset.
up, and this is purely growth of your community is not the same.
Okay, cause when I
Yeah,
see land
growth.
use, that gets broad for me in my head,
Yeah, yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, you know, a good example is, I think one of the documents we have from Colorado Parks and Wildlife speaks to when there are production areas, which are like calving grounds. And so, I think about this a lot because it's like May 1st to June 15th or something like that.
Yeah,
Where you
we've all
go,
got
that's when they
seasonal.
need this quiet and secluded. And so can we work around that as people that wanna be in these areas and honor the fact that this is what needs to happen if we wanna respect that, so.
Yeah. And that's how
Doesn't
most of them
include-
are, you know, seasonal gate closures for most stuff like that,
Yeah.
that addresses that. I just, again, wanna make sure we aren't putting things in place that are gonna make it harder to accomplish other goals that I think align with the larger community,
Yeah.
down the road.
Right, and there is, like Heather was mentioning, there's quite a bit in the goals and strategies around recreation and furthering access for all users and recognizing the importance of recreation. So there is, you know, some equal language in here about that too.
Yeah, trade-offs,
Yeah,
trade-offs,
name the game.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, well, why don't we go in the spirit of continuing to move forward to the next slide, which I think, we had 3 goals. Goal number 4, build complete neighborhoods and community places where they can live and work, we can live and work. So that's the goal, and then the strategies for that one. We have 2 of them, the mixed income neighborhoods, and any sort of residentially serving retail or commercial. And then we get into Southern Lake County. So looking at a sub-area plan that really helps to, allows time to drill down into issues such as the infrastructure challenges that we have in that part of the county. So those are a couple of the strategies that again support the goal.
And
So.
I think it's probably important that, you know, we are just kind of taking a few out and you can spend some time, you know, there's quite a bit more in here. So there is more, that's certainly in this section.
So, thoughts about this one?
I think the only thing, and I don't know if it belongs, I know again, we're not supposed to be editing, but one thing that I feel like the strategy here or maybe it belongs under a strategy in goal 2, but like I just one of my fears is that like we're gonna overdevelop like we're gonna create a lot of density where we want it in infill, but then in doing so, we're gonna ignore the need for there to be ample open space or parks. You know, if you make a certain area on the city periphery super dense, but then you have no parks for anybody to do anything or, you know, so I just feel like there's that like, I know that everybody's got a really heavy focus on, we've gotta figure out how to get housing developments into every little piece of land we can come up with that has access to utility infrastructure, and I know in sometimes doing that, we do have to give up to a developer the open space requirements that they have on their existing parcel, but I think that that's where the community needs to also be planning on their own parcels or in some other way, that there's still access to that kind of thing, whether it's, you know, the community field is great, and then you've got the downtown, but everything West Park and anything that got further developed in West Park, to me, like they have Ice Palace Park, or if they break into the elementary school park, I suppose, you know, so like, it's just those kind of things, like I just wanna make sure that we're including things like part of that connectivity part that's mentioned in goal 2, which I know you don't have tonight, but I just wanna make sure that we're also including that we are counting that as a factor in our,
That there's open space and parks, when we talk about a complete neighborhood, it needs to
the complete
include-
neighborhood needs to have all of
those,
those
yeah.
pieces, yes.
Yeah. That's a good point, we can make sure that that's included as how we define a complete neighborhood.
So it does, yeah, that's great, and it is, again, just adding a little context, I'm wondering if this would be helpful. A complete neighborhood is one where residents can meet daily needs without leaving their neighborhood, housing at different price points, a corner store, or small business, a park, or gathering space, a connection to a trailer school. Like those existing neighborhoods have many of these qualities. The goal is to protect what works and fill in what's missing, both in the city and in rural areas where residents drive in to let both basic needs. So just trying, like you said, like just building that a complete neighborhood has all of those components to it.
Yeah, if someone wanted to put a convenience store in to serve Panhard and Twin Lakes, I don't even know where, outside of the actual core of Twin Lakes, is there anywhere even you could do that right now?
I think that we're kind of thinking like that Balltown area is kind of a good rural node.
Okay,
As you're thinking about that kind of, that seems to be like kind of a great location to have those kind of needs to serve. And, there's so many rural neighborhoods out there. There's, Twin Lakes, Panarch, Rojas subdivision. I mean, there's just so many different areas that could really help serve without having to fall way into town.
Other thoughts?
Great observation.
Alright, well, why don't we move to housing, which is number 2. I think land use is maybe our biggest category, so hopefully we spend more time on that, but that's important. So housing, delivering housing locals can access and afford by expanding housing choices. So, we've all heard this one a lot, it's a very important goal. We have a lot of strategies that go with them. So the first one has several parts to it, but really addressing funding sources, leveraging publicly owned lands, and advocating and coordinating with water and sand. So yeah, bring costs down is essentially the goal. So anything about this one, anything, clarifications or thoughts related to this?
A lot of that's already been done.
Certainly working on it.
Or implemented in the current projects.
Why don't we go to the next slide, which have the other strategies to it. Against the sub-area planning, so Southern Lake County, which has got different challenges. Adopting affordability requirements for new development. And then pursuing partnerships, public and private partnerships to support this. This might be a goal we spent the most time on.
It's been a lot of discussion, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading the more thorough ones, and I think the only thing I worry about a little bit, at least on this master doc, it's saying that strategy H12 is remove city and county zoning, building codes and design barriers to enable diverse housing types, including missing middle housing, small scale and multifamily development. And it does a good job of like explaining what that means, but that first sentence is pretty strong of removing city and county zoning and building codes and barriers. In the way that I just worry that that becomes a real heavy hitter for any developer that wants to develop anything. They're like, well, this strategy, this thing that you have right here in your comp plan says that you're gonna change and make these barriers go away so that I can do this. And that whole reason we have barriers, or some of them are for a reason. So I worry a little bit about that. And I feel the same about, H13. I think that it's great as we've been using it as one of the things that we do, but it says, requiring all new development to ensure it contributes to affordable housing, and that would have to be affordability of requirements. And I just worry about that because there's a lot of housing types that feed this community. And this feels like very much in the lines, like it's not just saying we should be exploring those and looking at each development with that lens. This is kind of, to me, the sentence says that it's requiring all new development to have affordability requirements. And maybe that is what I just can see, an issue with that being
It may not be
For
in all cases, yeah.
right. I mean, there's lots of neighboring communities right now that are having a lot of problems with their affordability requirements. So I think that it's just hard to put us in this box of we will do that instead of, or require it instead of.
So maybe just explore instead of and adopt.
Yeah, and it's really the sentence in the middle that's like the city and county should explore, adopt requirements that ensure that, like, I just worry about the word requirements of like.
Can I respond to that?
Yes,
Sorry, I've lost my button for raising my hand. I don't know where it went.
no, it's better that you do that actually, because I'm not looking at that screen.
From the city standpoint, we have been doing everything possible to make sure that anything the city does, that they are considering the county. So I would counsel on the opposite of what you're counseling and say that we need to keep that wording in there, only so that the city planning department understands that anything they do needs to be in keeping with the county planning department. And the two departments have to work together because they do. I can't do anything through the city that doesn't then have to go through the county. So anything we can do to encourage keeping regulations aligned and keeping the board of communication open, I think is a real win. And we would be remiss to take that out. Just my 2 cents, but that's my 2 cents as a builder working both the city and the county. And it is really difficult right now. And as we move forward, anything we can do to align the two is a win.
Yeah, maybe I'm saying things, I was saying that I think we should change the language in H12 so that we aren't saying that we'll remove all zoning and building code barriers.
And that makes perfect sense. I would just, as the county doing this, I would keep as much pressure on the city's planning department as possible to align themselves with the county.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not reading any of this having to do with the two of them working together. I'm seeing this as our strategy to get affordable housing is to make either city or county zoning, building codes, and design barriers easier by removing them. So I don't see anything in here that's like talking about the two aligning, but they probably should say that. But I think it's, the way I'm reading H12 is it's saying that we would remove barriers for somebody if they're able to build affordable housing. And although I think we would consider it depending on what it is, I just felt like it was a really strong intro sentence.
Nope,
But
that
I
makes
don't
sense. And a lot of that's coming from the state requirements here recently that we've had to pass for the affordable housing, quick passage through the building departments kind of thing.
Right.
I understand your point. I just want to make sure that we keep that counterpoint open as well. I would I would do everything we can to put as much pressure on the city to mirror and mimic what the county building department is doing.
Heather, I'm looking at this too, and I kinda agree, it's like, is there a way to just wordsmith that a little bit?
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, is I think H1 is just a wordsmith of, like, the strategy starts with, we're gonna remove city and county zoning, building codes and design barriers.
Yeah,
And I just feel like it should say, we will consider,
yeah.
I don't know, like, I don't even think it's that big of a deal, I think it's just purely that, like, we wanna become flexible on a case-by-case basis, you know?
I think we captured what you're saying.
Yeah,
In terms of, we don't wanna put ourselves in a box we can't get out of.
yeah, I just don't want the wrong development to come in, we're like, well, we didn't mean you. We meant these guys over here.
And I think it's important to note that some of these, the sentence that regulatory reform is among the lowest cost tools available to expand housing choices. Some things we have no ability to have any flexibility on,
Yeah.
so many of the codes that, as far as building goes, those, we have so much state oversight now in building that we don't have the ability locally to waive certain building requirements. So I think there is, like what we said about identifying those inconsistencies. I do think that, we don't want a word that's as strong as what like you said, we don't want a word that's that strong. And then just noticing that that's an inconsistency because we don't have certain controls.
For some of those
Those are
things.
required by the state in some instances, so we just don't have the ability to be that flexible.
Okay. Good comments. Anything else before we move to infrastructure?
And I would say the same with the adopt requirements on H1 3. I think it's great to explore options, but I don't think that, what works, just noticing that there's differences in the city and county in what is the best way to incentivize housing. In both, there are nuanced differences between what works good in the city and what works well in the county.
Okay. Alright. Why don't we go to the next slide, infrastructure and transportation. So we're looking at goal number 2, which is to prioritize strategic investments in the city and county. To, provide resilient and well-maintained utilities. That would be a happy day for all of us, I'm sure. So, what are the strategies? Let's go to the next slide. There's a lot of strategies, there's 5 of them. So, I'll let you guys read, but we talked a little bit about this earlier in terms of our aging utility infrastructure and deferred maintenance. It's always a big one. Prioritizing solid waste management. Did I duplicate? I did. Something's not right there.
3 is coordinate infrastructure capacity planning and investments to align with managed growth and development.
Okay, thank you. 4 has to do with our stormwater system, and 5 has to do with, again, efficiency in terms of growth based upon infrastructure. So, thoughts, clarifying questions about how these support our overall goal of strategic investments between the city and the county.
My concern is just the first one feels mostly out of our hands. And so I don't know if that just includes, like, that means that we're putting pressure on those utility infrastructures to upgrade or helping them figure out the money for it. I don't know, I just feel like it's been a problem with Leadville Sand and Parker Water since I moved here 28 years ago. And I just don't know how, I know in the past, the county's tried really hard, like, there's this grant available, and they kind of are working on their own. So I just worry that that's a strategy here that we're telling the community that we're gonna work on, as far as those couple of infrastructures, and we don't necessarily have the control to be investing in their infrastructure unless it's partnering with them or supporting them. So I just would love that to have a little more clarity in that way, so that it's clear to the community what we have control over versus not, but maybe.
So I think, again, just adding a little bit of context, because, I'm realizing it's a little hard to take some of these out without all the other pieces. And so the implementation plan, so both Leadville Sand and Parkville Water have been in this group that have been working on creating these strategies. And so in the implementation, if there's a partner that we need buy-in from in order to bring these to fruition, that's identified in the implementation. And we've also been working with like Josh and Greg on, these, and they've been part of the stakeholder group that's working on them. But that you're absolutely right, because it's not the only time we're gonna see like a strategy that we need a partner coordination with in order to have buy-in to make these things come to fruition. So I think when we get all of the pieces together, this will be part of that companion document of the implementation, where we identify like who's responsible for this, and and what's funding resources that we can use. So I think it's just, we have and that's not even in these documents yet. So we just need, so really great for putting that out, because sometimes there is a little bit more too that's out there that
Well, there is, and unlike a lot of comp plans, this really does incorporate a lot of other agencies
Right.
that are in some cases, even under the strategy, taking the lead. So, not all of it is on the city and the county.
and it does show up on the spreadsheet.
Yeah, it does.
So when, in the spreadsheet document, link, the action plan itself, it does have that other piece that we're talking about. It'll have the other partner, or agency, and then some funding, that will support it. So thanks for bringing that up, because we weren't clear on sharing that, so thank you for that.
Other thoughts?
Yeah, the only thing, it would be nice to, and maybe this is spelled out somewhere else already, but when they talk about the deferred maintenance of the infrastructure, working on that as a priority, but it would be nice to know, like, or see where those areas are most critical, maybe as they relate to like snow routes and things of that nature. So we're not necessarily prioritizing it where it can't be as useful, I guess. I don't know if that's making sense. In my head it is. Like, I would just like to know that when we're prioritizing it is a piece of it, but then also the I guess where it can be most impactful, not necessarily just its age or where it's most degraded, but where it can be most beneficial. I guess the most value added, I guess is what I'm saying. That's all, just my 2 cents. But I have to jump off the call early, so I do apologize. So
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, and
thank you.
those are already in play. Like, for example, Mike, he's got a pavement management plan that has prioritized roads to pay attention to based on state of condition and service, level of service, those kinds of things. So I think it's inherent already in the scope of the city and the county to have prioritized work identified. And I'm assuming
The districts
the
too.
districts too, yes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these, even the big moves are the coordination of those things.
Yes.
So it even elevates it to a higher level.
Bring that piece
It's really
together.
hard just to pick the highlights out of this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's hard.
There's so
Yeah, I
much
mean-
more behind it all.
Right, there's so much context that we can't really, it's hard to figure out how to present it.
Yeah.
Just gotta read the whole thing. That's all.
Yeah, just read the whole thing and then, but.
Yeah, other thoughts? typically for the board members?
I don't think we're gonna see a lot of help coming from the state on this for the next year if House Bill 26-1399 goes. That's gonna be a big crimp in state funding for all this stuff, unfortunately.
I think it's gonna be a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
If
heard
it
even
keeps
worse
going.
the next year, yeah.
Yeah, I think our funding landscape doesn't look great for a while, but
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the action plan too, being a companion document that we can update too. So this is a 10-year, plan with the information that we know today. And then the ability to really work on that separate companion document as more information, change in funding, landscapes may change and things like that. So really great point of, this is what the information we have today and those opportunities might develop over time.
It depends if money shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
but we're ready to go, we've got a plan that we'd be ready for those opportunities.
All right, so the second one we're gonna talk about has to do with Twin Lakes again, in terms of infrastructure needs and upgrades. So let's go to the strategies. It's such a big one, it's such a simple sentence. But
Yeah.
feasibility of water and wastewater in the village and fire mitigation measures for the Twin Lakes area.
And like another area where, the plan itself has so much discussion about the needs of the southern part of the community, including that sub-area planning. And so this is just one or two strategies related to the goal, but built into a whole tapestry of action in that area.
Thoughts or comments?
Those are easy. Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Not very much discussion, so maybe we'll keep moving. All right, economy, fourth category. Support and grow locally owned businesses. And this was really a wordsmithed, intentional phrase, cherished and valued element of our self-reliant community. So there's definitely an impetus to really acknowledge the importance of our businesses. So the strategies, there are a bunch of them. So a lot of this has to do with organizing, I would say, and really communication are pieces of this, in terms of having a central point of contact, having a business registry, and then a little more on the networking side, cultivating a strong and connected community of businesses, and making sure that there's an understanding and awareness of what goods and services are available from our local businesses, and creating opportunities to invest, which is kind of an interesting one that came up at the Building Better Places. Well, some of the communities come up with a mechanism that allows an individual to invest in their own town for specific purposes that support the business community. So that really fostered some new ideas, I would say.
This is an area, that like when we look at that action plan that really shows the partner supports in this area of the chamber, the EDC, TED. So, this is an area that has a lot of identified supports around it.
Joey?
On number 1-1, the central point of contact, there's a lot of work going on right now from all three entities. And the three entities, as I understand them, are our EDC, which is economic development, trying to bring new things into town. Our Chamber of Commerce, who is our voice for our local businesses, existing and potential. And then Leadville's Main Street Coalition. I wonder if there wouldn't be a way to change the wording on that to, there is no central point. All three of those organizations are kind of in the rebuilding or development stage. They're all established, but they're all in the process of rebuilding. I wonder if we couldn't we couldn't word that in such a way that it references those three different points, or whether that would be worthwhile. And I will just listen to what you guys say from there.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Again, just sharing what we know is that, members from, I think, all of those groups and the city and the county attended the Building Better Places on economic development. And this is one area of the plan that it seems like those voices, all of those members, Joey, have really leaned in to, fine tune these, so that's great, but it's a great group that I know that we would get like some really probably quick answers, if they thought that they needed to be identified a little differently. So great point, and it's just a great group to engage with because they're very, they've been very active through this process.
They are all three very, very engaged right now, and they're very active, which is nice as a change over the last 3 or 4 years. They have been considering having a shared director that could kind of steer all three organizations, but that doesn't currently exist. So I wonder if it wouldn't be worth asking what the wording should be on that, because one client would go to EDC, one client would be more appropriate for the chamber, and another client entirely for Main Street currently.
I mean, it could just be established points of contact.
Yeah, just change it to plural.
Easy.
Be an easy way to address that with some nimble language.
Okay,
Great point.
other thoughts? All right, we can go to the next goal. Goal number 2. Grow businesses and industries that fit our community character. And kind of do all the things we're trying to accomplish in terms of diversifying and providing jobs. So we can keep our people in town. So the strategies that support that, 4 of them, kind of identifying the top industries that might fit our community, and inform local businesses of opportunities for unmet needs so that they maybe want to step in as an entrepreneur or grow in that direction. An idea that we looked at in Grand Junction, our co-working or incubator spaces, maker spaces. So all of those are sort of to help foster business, new businesses or businesses that want to grow. And again, it's kind of that network of support and resources. And then there's the Lake County Industrial Park, which we have not given up on. So
It's really that focus was on place-based economy and really focusing in on that and how to support, that third strategy. Like Melissa said, all of the work that came out of that and just hearing from so many other communities in the exact same situation that we're in. So it was really great.
Elsa. Oh, we can't hear you. We hear that you're like in a cave really far away maybe, but
underwater.
maybe underwater.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. I was just swimming in a cave, so that checks out.
I'm glad you came up for air.
Only for you guys. So I'm just wondering where might a strategy be about collecting data about our workforce who commutes? Because I know that we have a lot of guesstimates, and maybe this is like a sub goal within these strategies, but would this be a place where we actually would strategize around collecting the data about our workforce? Or would that go somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great point. We could take a look at some of what the actual activities are, that are under these goals, Elsa, and make sure that we have something related to that.
So there is in the next goal, goal 3 is job pathways, and one of the strategies in there is all about that increasing local workers' awareness of job opportunities in our community because commuting is so costly. So I would imagine that under that strategy, the implementation would be, you know, surveying those people to see who could fit here. But I could also see how, if you're trying to attract new businesses, you were able to identify which businesses already exist out of county and could potentially relocate or move something similar to ours. So I could see them being in both somehow, but maybe that's part of an implementation thing. I don't know.
It feels more like a broader, I guess in my mind, a broader just data collection about our workforce.
Yeah.
That I think would inform any of these strategies or like inform any of the sub goals under the strategies. But I totally agree, Heather. It seems like innate, but just wondering if that is worth teasing out.
If I can respond, Elsa, the chamber or Norm Ritter in particular at the chamber has been developing all of that data and it actually has it put together in a pretty good set. He continues to do outreach, but he has that data currently. If you were interested in it, I would reach out to Norm
Oh, that's cool.
and sit down with you and go through all of those things and each data point, and he's collecting it on a semi-weekly basis. So it is absolutely valid and current information. He does it through the chamber, but he also does it individually. So he would be worth someone to talk to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, Joey.
Yep.
Yeah, so far I'm not seeing anything specific, like
I mean,
you
I
were
could
describing.
I could see you putting it into strategy 2.3 because you're talking about data. Data can readily show what goods and services, but maybe it's also and workforces needs or something.
Collecting data about, yeah. Yeah, well, we'll make sure, it feels like very foundational to what we are trying to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. We've made a note of that. See where that fits in. Thank you, Elsa. Anything else? Okay, let's go to the next slide, which is environment and natural resources. The first goal here is manage the impacts of visitation and recreation on our lands. So this is one that gets a lot of airtime, it's certainly important. So let's look at the strategies related to that. So we have 5 strategies here. Yeah, maintain and upgrade infrastructure that supports responsible visitation. Strengthen the collaboration of local governments and our partners. Creating an outdoor recreation management plan. Pursue sustainable funding sources to address the impacts on lands, public lands in particular, but the lands that we are responsible for. And broaden outreach and education efforts to help residents, commercial operators and visitors practice responsibly. And how to be a good human, as they say. So, all of those are to support the idea of, how do we mitigate the popularity that we see in our lands at this point in time.
Destination stewardship, and in strategy 1, so much of what Melissa and I do every day comes back to how do we manage waste? We say it a little differently, but it does come back to
Human and
that.
otherwise.
That's right. So,
I really liked this section just because we hadn't really delved into this in the previous comp plan because we weren't having the impact nearly as much. It was far less utilized, and I just feel like the strategies that came out of this in the public sessions were really good. So this was kind of cool to see new things that we're pulling out and aligning with the community on, so.
Other thoughts? Feels like one of the areas of trade-offs, right, of being, you know, we want visitors, we want them to come and spend their money here, and we wanna protect our natural resources. How do we do both of those well?
It's balance between, you know, the economic component and the love to death component.
You're really, I think this was one of the things I sat in on Building Better Places, is this has just felt, you know, by so many, all over Colorado, communities are struggling with this, like post-COVID and after, of that thought of being loved to death. And how do you manage that? And promote better visitation, and how do you manage better visitation? So we're not alone, that's for sure.
The environment right now is, the ditches are filled with trash. So where does that fit in? Is that outreach and education? Because somebody sent us an email that, I guess you don't really look around, but I think local folks need to be educated about. It's $1,000 fine if you're caught littering, but man, it's really bad in the ditches out of Grand West. And my house, mile marker 4 on 91 is the perfect distance from the gas station. Apparently, toss them in the driveway, so.
Right when they finish their coffee.
Yeah.
I think we get to take a better look at that, the model traffic code. And my understanding is that we're having trouble tracking down the actual codes that say we can take you to court and charge you X amount of dollars for a fine. Like it's there.
Trespass though, I mean, you know, so like if somebody puts their, like if somebody threw something out and you can identify them and it's on your property, I mean, that's trespass, I think, but if it's a moving violation because you threw it out of the car and the officers,
It's
and there's
tricky to
different
enforce
things.
from what I've heard because there's
Okay.
some maybe missing gaps that I think we'll get the chance to address here also. So
Super.
add teeth to that.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's talking about trails and stuff, but most people, like for instance, if they stop at the Leadville Junction parking lot right now to use the bathroom, it's full of glass, little vodka bottles.
Sugar bottles.
I mean, it's disgusting.
Yeah, and I would say that that kind of stuff, which wouldn't work for roadways, but would fall under these in the way of like,
Community outreach or.
well, I think you have the education piece, but obviously those people don't care, that are doing that usually, so I think it's more on like making sure you have funding to manage the cleanup of it. Like, I hate to say it, but I think the chance of mitigating it without like cameras and security and extra police patrol, like, is making sure that it's being consistently taken care of and having the resources to take care of it. Because if it's kind of dilapidated and kind of being trashed anyway, it's a lot easier to keep trashing it. We don't have the resources right now to like attach anybody to that stuff. You know, to the cleanup of trailheads and even the trails or the, you know, whatever, it's just, you know, you're kind of
Yeah,
depending on.
enforcement is a really big part of what
Yeah,
you're talking about, that we're lacking several areas.
once there's some traction there, then I think it gets a lot real. I don't know if anybody in this room can think of the last time someone actually got a littering fine. And they can-
But, I mean, yeah, my own
that
like,
would,
my own passion for having more patrolling would be helpful, yeah. I bet there's not as much littering in Chaffey County with how much those roads are patrolled.
Yeah.
Granted, they have a lot more money to go towards that, that's not what I'm saying, but I just think like, you end up with a lot of that too, because,
Those little shooter bottles, we know those are kids. You
Yeah.
know, like those are,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
disgusting flavors that no
Absolutely.
adult would drink in their right mind, you know, like banana berry shooter bottles piled up in the woods. And that, I think, is 1.5, the
Yeah,
outreach
agreed.
and education to residents and, you know, which I don't think the commercial operators are out there throwing trash out and visitors, but we don't know how to reach them, you know, at their formative years.
yeah, I think those are all for like, how to take care of your trails and not the trash component maybe.
Kids that don't wanna bring their bottles home.
Or be pulled over
Yeah,
in the car.
that's a huge one, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the answer is, we try to get kids to not do that, but also maybe just have a trash can. I don't know.
Sounds so.
Good points. Good
I
point.
just feel like if, you know, people really start hearing about, oh, so-and-so just got $1,000 fine, I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know how you like put it in this complaint, but yes, I agree, no trash.
Should be part of the environment conversation.
Yeah.
Very few trailheads are littered with vodka shooters.
Put the woods
Maybe
behind my
human
house,
waste.
Right,
the woods where the kids party.
alright, Elsa?
Thanks. I was just looking through the strategies within the strategies, but I'm wondering if there was any conversation about equity access to the outdoors. I'm guessing it would go under strategy N1.3, but I just don't see it in really any of the subcategories. So just wondering what the conversation has been, since that has been a really big part of our community in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great point, and I sat in on conversations around that, Elsa, in stakeholder conversations about access equity. And so I'm trying to, because I do believe that we did end up with a goal around that. And that might be more in community services and facilities. It might be just in a different, under a different topical area. Because I do remember,
I remember
a pretty
seeing one
big
too.
conversation, around that. So we'll put a note in here and if it's, and locate that, and make sure, because that's a really great point.
Okay, I did look through the community facilities and services and didn't see anything really shouting that out in the way that we have as a community shouted that out. So
Yeah.
if it is hidden somewhere, I would just be kind of surprised that that was not as significant a conversation.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the values and visions. It's
Yeah.
definitely part of that conversation, but I'm not sure, so we'll make a note and,
Okay,
and
thank
make sure that it's articulated somewhere in here very clearly.
Yes, it absolutely
Thank you.
should be.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I think we have like one more, that was the second one, yeah. Enhance forest health while building community resilience. So it's gonna be a relevant one this summer, I imagine, so. What are the strategies? We have 5 of them. So our wildfire protection plan, programs that support private landowners with best practices, building and sustaining human capacity needs to advance resiliency efforts and sustaining funding for all of these activities and expand post-fire recovery efforts to address things like erosion control and watershed health. So it's kind of a whole picture from funding to practices to clean up when it's done. So thoughts about this one?
I guess another piece, and I think this kind of talk is double-edged sword. But if it's, me, I like carrots instead of rules, but I think that if you could incentivize more, of the building in the fire retardant ways, that I think that would, I know that we have that'll be included, I'm assuming, in our building code stuff, but I just don't know if it should also just be called out in here, that that's one of our strategies, is to encourage / incentivize. I know that also costs more money, so sometimes that doesn't work, but incentivizing that kind of development, right? Because it's anywhere from subdivisions with too many trees to houses using the appropriate materials, so, I don't know. I mean, I'm guilty of living in one of those right now.
Yeah.
It probably isn't a great idea, so.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't know what the solution is necessarily, but I guess I just
Yeah.
don't know if we need to be mentioning that we also want to be considering, these kinds of things when we are approving development applications.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's already kind of implied within this strategy, but, I just didn't know if it was called out really, so. Elsa?
Thanks, Heather. What do you think about, do you think that the WUI code addresses some of those concerns, or do you feel like there's more that needs to be done when it comes to that?
I guess without going down the rabbit hole and trying to figure out what it is, I guess I just am wondering if we do need to be looking into it, and I'm guilty of not knowing a whole lot about what currently exists and what happens. I just know that when we're approving development applications, we're not necessarily, other than if they meet a code, we're not necessarily, hyper-focused on that. I know we go to referral agencies for some of that, but I just wonder if we should have more conversations or not about whether we incentivize development and new builds or
Yeah.
builds to have some better awareness. And maybe this comes back to just education, but I just don't know if we should be, mostly because this year is really scary, or seems like it could be, that it's when we're approving those applications, we're depending on referral agencies that are considering it, but I don't know if they're considering it as much as we want to be. And maybe I don't know.
I see. Yeah, and I hear the incentive part too. I don't think that there's definitely not incentive built into the WUI code, except that we're more likely to be able to access more insurance.
Wildland urban interface.
We actually adopted the Colorado Wildfire Resiliency Code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that it's the CWRC, and like Elsa said, it gets us the ability to be insurable, less than creating any kind of reduction. And so now, or as of July 1, all new homes, new housing stock will have to have, depending on whether you're in moderate to high risk, and most of Lake County is in that, you'll have hardening requirements for the exterior, your roof, your siding, your windows, and then you'll have your defensible space. So you'll have 3 different zones that you'll have to maintain, depending again on which level of category that you're under. So that's a new code that will be implemented in Leadville and Lake County both.
Yeah, but to Heather's point, it's kind of how do we localize some of that, and is there a way we can incentivize? Which I don't know, but I agree with Heather. It'd be great to continue to have conversations about how we can potentially help with the. I don't know how we help, but it seems like it does deserve more conversation about how the WUI code will impact us.
So
And it could be in 4 too, I think, if we just added a little tiny bit of wordsmithing as far as like, I don't know, I mean, off the top of my head, I'm just thinking like, because I think the other thing that would be helpful is the education of, oh, you have to redo the siding on your house? This isn't a new build anymore, but I need to redo the siding on my house. Hey, this is the incentive for you to like pick something that's not cedar siding anymore, or whatever it is, right? So like, so they can't yeah, go ahead.
So there's no incentive, you know, I mean, it's a law, it's a rule, that you, if you're doing more than 25% of the exterior, you're gonna have to
Change your
you're gonna have to
siding.
change it. So we don't have like an incentive program, or we don't have a way to maybe support.
Well, and if we have something in place, then I think that works too. It's just nice to like reference something that's like, because it's in place today, but it could go away in 2 years and be totally different, right? So I'm
This is a
just-
state mandated adoption,
Right,
so it was a legislative mandate for us to adopt this, or a more, so that we had adopted the state, so we had to adopt the state or a equal or more strict code. So I don't see it being repealed anytime soon. So I think like this was more, the wildfire protection plan has a lot of like best practices, right? So I can see why the sustaining sound programs that support implementation of wildfire resilient practices, because all of this discussion kind of predated our mandatory adoption. And so, you know, certainly if you all are thinking that there might be ways to, you know, so those were really best practices that were being brought forward, and so ways to like educate and expand the knowledge about those. So this will affect new construction and additions, you know, if you're adding more than 500 square feet, if you're redoing your roof or your siding, then you're gonna have impacts there. So this just doesn't even anticipate those new laws that we just adopted. So,
okay.
you know, if there's a way that you all think that we could maybe further support people that are trying to kind of acclimate to those codes and understand it. Like, for instance, you know, we've created a whole web page of resources for people to get that information. So maybe it is just adding some language to strategy in 4.2. Like, we are trying to find ways to support property owners and the industry of being knowledgeable about this and what does it mean. And so I think one of those is supporting the implementation of wildfire resilient or resiliency codes, maybe, so expanding on that. And you know, and as more information is known, which I think will grow in knowledge, we can make sure that we're getting that information really front facing for our community. Because I think as communities are implementing the state code, I think that there'll be more information that'll be coming out. So I think maybe just adding that in a little bit.
Well, in reading N4 too, it's almost as if the word landowners was changed to property owners. I don't know, because to me, when I read 4.2, all I think about is land. And
Not
and
like somebody with a house that owns property.
and so, but then it would kind of cover that, because it's like empowering property owners to proactively manage their properties. That includes everything from their land to their house to their truck shed to their whatever. I don't know, just a thought, because I think in reading that, then that helps empower and educate. And maybe you add that, empower and educate, and it's property owners, then maybe it feels more applicable to everybody. I don't know, unless you feel like there's a reason to keep it only landowners.
Gotcha.
We do have one action that says create incentives for developers, subdivisions, and HOAs to participate in wildfire resilience certification programs.
So that's like Firewise, which has, you know, a set of standards.
So for existing development, you could become certified as a community, and then you would be implementing some of these best practices. Is that basically what it's saying? Like defensible spaces and materials?
Right, yeah, there's a whole list of things if you wanna become a Firewise community, so if subdivisions would wanna look into doing that, getting the certification, they can ways to encourage that. I think that's all great, so.
All right. Let's see, we're almost done. Last one. So this one is facilities and services, has to do with quality of life. So this category is really broader. It encompasses a lot of things, with health and food access, and childcare. So when we're talking about quality of life, there's some strategies, which, well, taking a step back a little bit, management of our public facilities and assets, which you guys are, we're doing some planning related to that as a county to see what we have. Repurposing underutilized public facilities, which go along with that same, kind of pathway, and how to explore opportunities to create new public indoor community space, and then strengthen the co-management of public facilities and assets for community benefit. So these really have to do with facilities under this particular goal. Any
Number
thoughts?
3, that's not up there, is like the childcare component,
Yeah.
and I'm glad it's in there. I do feel like it needs to be like number 1, like that is
Yeah.
what it's costing us, what it's, you know, the childcare situation is, and I don't think it ultimately matters what order things are in, you know, it's in there, we know it needs work.
Right.
That just for me personally, I feel like, you know, when you look at the stats on that, how big a thorn in the side of this community, the lack of childcare is, that's the one I want to shout from the rooftops.
Yeah, so that's goal number 3 you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? All right. Well, I think that's it. Let's go to the last one. Yeah. So, thank you for kind of slogging our way through these. They are really important, and there are lots of them, of course. So, again, if you can have any additional comments to us by noon on Thursday, and certainly you can write directly into these documents if you want to. They're Google
The ones
Docs,
that you have.
they're shared.
Yeah, we made the copies, so that you
From
could,
them.
put edits right in. If you would like to.
Yeah.
So you can pull them out. It's a little harder to do it in the spreadsheet, and a little easier on the narrative, but you can put comments in the spreadsheet.
So we can go ahead and change all of this.
We have another one, we have a
They have the
master.
master
Because
copy.
it says Matt.
That's
They're
right.
like what Matt did.
We're gonna have some
Can't do it
ownership on there.
anonymously, well, you probably can, but I don't know how.
Make a burner account for your Google.
Yeah, so thank you very much for walking through all of these 3 different rounds. It's a really important, you all are gonna be making lots of decisions based upon this. So, I think we feel like it's really coming together well. So it's a heavy lift right now, so thank you for that. Again, we'll talk about the mapping, which has been, you know, we've been spending a lot of time, and Heather's really stepped in to help us with that. Because the map that supports, the maps that support some of these policy statements are also very important. How we call things out, what we can and can't do, you know, how that sets us up for the future. all of it has really big implications, so we'll talk about that on the 20th.
I think one of the exciting things that we learned as we were going through the mapping is that we really had a good foundation to work from. There were things that we wish were a little more beyond kind of our basic in our existing comp plan, but there were some, there were definitely things in the existing comp plan that we didn't want to lose as we go into this iteration. There were definitely places that it was really working. And so when we discovered that we had a great foundation, I think it'll also really help our community understand that, we thought that we had a good foundation and we can just really narrow in on where the changes are. So I think that's easier than seeing a brand new map that looks so much different than what you would expect it to. And we kind of started in a pathway that we were kind of really redefining use types and things, and then realized that there was a lot of merit, thanks to Heather and Melissa's help on that, really identifying where those strengths were. And so I think when we get that done, it'll be really helpful to be able to actually put that in real time. How are we looking at future growth? That'll really be helpful. We don't have a lot of land area locally.
So are you guys doing most of this work, or is the contractor doing some of it, or?
It is, the contractor, is definitely has done so much. Community builders have brought so much value through their ability to take so much data and process that in a meaningful way. They've really brought strength around helping with facilitation, a lot of the research, a lot of the, but the city and the county have definitely, this has been a huge lift for the planning departments. We've done a tremendous amount of the work, so I would say, it's very much been a partnership between all of us to bring this to fruition. So it's definitely been a tremendous lift for the planning department.
Yeah, you guys are
bring
working
this
hard on
forward.
it. How much are they involved right now?
So they are creating really the final docs that we're working from. Both Rachel and Brooke, I would say, have been really instrumental in actually writing the text. We think that they have really valuable strengths that they bring to the table and being able to bring that together. So as far as formatting, putting the information, the culmination of all the information from the stakeholder groups, fine tuning that and bringing it to fruition has really been where they excel as facilitators in this process. And we would be hard pressed to have achieved this without their efforts. So, it's really been, everybody's been really critical that's been involved.
I'm not questioning your input, I'm just curious about your guys's. There's a lot to do down in that department besides this.
No, I know. Yeah.
Glad
that's recognized. Yeah, I think that it's just that it's at this point though, where it's like, only we can tell them it's right or give them the right information, based on what they took. So now they've like spit out at everybody, like, here's what we have, and now we're like, yeah, is it right, or do we need to, and the map especially, like, they kind of came up with their iteration based on what they thought, but then we sat down and we're like, well, actually, we need to, they just don't know these pieces of it. So I think that's why it's so heavy right now probably for these guys, is because it's in the part of making sure that they got the data right and the wordsmithing and all of that stuff
That
too.
you have seen it to our greatest extent, because you all, that are gonna make decisions based on that.
Yeah, but that's really a good recognition that they can only, we're the ones that intimately know the land and so when we go start trying to put this into a spatial layout, they just don't know what the planning departments know, so.
I think speaking on behalf of the taxpayers, just acknowledging and extending gratitude to you guys for all the work that you're doing, because the value that we're getting from community partners and the One Community Project for something that we're mandated to do. Like, we have to do this regardless, and a lot of communities are just like, cool, like pay some money to make this thing happen so that it looks good for the state, so we can check that box. And what we're actually getting is people listening, taking the voices of people in this community and coming up with something that is probably a better product than what a lot of people pay a lot of money to get. And part of that is because you guys are doing so much of the work too, so thank you
Totally
guys and
agree.
your whole department.
It's really well said, I think that's an important message, you know, what we've created together.
Absolutely. We're very excited to be nearing the finish.
To be done.
To
be done, but it's gonna be great when it's
It'll
done.
be implementation, you know, so that, you know, but it does feel so exciting from starting to that, like, hey, just to be very blunt, you know, Heather and I having early conversations knowing the comp plan is coming and we're like, hey, really recognizing we're not a one-size-fits-all community and we gotta go into this really knowing ourselves and really driving the process instead of just checking the box, right? So it was so many of those like early conversations of going like, we wanna do it different this time, and everybody really contributed and helped us understand that we had an okay comp plan and there were some really good strengths in there, but we could do it better, and we didn't, and we were a little apprehensive of what do we do this time? And we know we have some limited resources, and honestly, I think Heather's the one that first said, hey, what do you know about community builders?
Yeah, I think we were at some weekend, something else there, and I was like, they should help us do the comp.
So, you know, I just started like really leaning in, and I tried to hire, I think you've heard the story, I tried to hire Clark like on the spot, like, okay, yep, that sounds great, that's what we need. Can you send me a contract? He's like, it doesn't work like that. So it's just been an exciting journey, and then when Melissa joined the department, wow, you know, the capacity she's added has been spectacular, and I couldn't have had another planner come on to the department that has her level historic knowledge and passion for the community, so that was a huge win, this whole thing. So it's just, the stars are just aligning, they really are. So,
Gives me great hope.
yay, glad to hear that. All right, oh, Elsa, is there anything else that you have for us, or Joey?
Thanks for asking. No, I'm good. I appreciate all of you so much. I've loved this conversation.
Yeah, no, you guys did a really good job of bringing up the salient points. Thank you.
Very good.
Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Joey, it's on you. He's like, that was his second right
That was
there.
his second.
All in favor, aye.